A zombie suddenly appeared in an abandoned bus that had been left unused for a long time. A woman leaned in for a closer look and found that this zombie was actually pregnant. She fought back her fear and helped the zombie give birth. Unexpectedly, the baby inside wasn't infected and looked very healthy, but the female zombie had long lost her sanity. The soldier nearby immediately shot and killed her, and threatened the woman to hand over the zombie baby.
You don't put it on the ground right now! I'll kill you both!
Hardly had the words fallen when the soldier was grabbed by a giant palm. A nearly 2-meter-tall, fully naked giant male zombie charged in. He was also carrying a human head in his hand. He was presumably the mate of that female zombie. The perilous and wild continent. Can the woman escape safely with her son? Let's start from the very beginning of the story. After 28 days later and 28 weeks later, we finally come to 28 years later. What does this outbreak mean? That is to say, 28 years ago, members of an animal protection organization accidentally released a group of virus-carrying gorillas from the laboratory, causing prosperous London to become a dead city in just 28 days. Now, 28 years have passed. Survivors who survived the viral catastrophe have established new settlements far from the cities. Britain has officially become a no-man's land. 12-year-old Spike lives with his family on an island surrounded by the sea on all sides. The village is filled with signs like water restrictions and supply shortages. Everyone lives on the minimum standard, and has lost the will to change their current situation. That morning, Spike got up with sleepy eyes. He packed tools like a flashlight, a whistle, and a dagger into his bag. Then he ran downstairs and hurriedly ate his meal. While the father and son were halfway through their meal, they heard a bang from upstairs. It turned out that Spike's mother, Isla, has been seriously ill and bedridden for years. The name Isla means small island in Scottish Gaelic. To Spike, his mother is indeed like this isolated island, drying up day by day. She may perish one day. Jimmy took this opportunity to tell his wife, 12-year-old Spike is going to complete his coming-of-age ceremony in advance. Isla was very excited after hearing this, and shouted insults at her husband, calling him a pervert, an infanticide who wants to murder the child. The reason she was so excited is that the so-called coming-of-age ceremony is to enter the jungle in the infected area to hunt zombies. The residents on the island had all heard about Spike's decision, and warmly wished him a safe journey. Spike enjoyed the cheers and applause. In a trance, he felt like he had become a hero. Even the leading committee came to see Spike off, because ordinary children only participate in the ceremony when they are 15. Spike is very brave for doing this. Female leader Susan told him that the coming-of-age ceremony is very cruel. Once entering the mainland, the village will not send any rescue. Life or death depends solely on luck. The wasteland at the entrance to the mainland is full of tombstones of failures. If you don't want to be one of them, you must go all out. Fortunately, Jimmy is willing to accompany his son in the challenge. The two stepped onto the long causeway. This is the only passage to the mainland. It only emerges when the tide is out. When the tide comes in, the sea will submerge this only way out. Moreover, the ocean currents will drag people into the depths. It's about 4 hours until high tide. The father and son have no way back. They first passed by a path piled with branches. This is the place where the village gets fuel. When Spike grows up, he may work here. By this time, zombies have evolved into several species, and live in harmony with nature. In a sense, humans have instead become intruders who hunt zombies arbitrarily. Even many people enjoy the game of torturing and killing zombies. There is no formal education on the island either. Children like Spike have to systematically learn archery. When they reach a certain age, how to kill zombies simply and quickly is the only proposition in their growth. Under his father's guidance, Spike successfully killed the first prey in his life. However, the zombies' roar attracted surrounding companions. Jimmy moved quickly, firing several arrows in a row, piercing the skulls of several zombies. Only one young zombie remained in the end. Jimmy didn't shoot at it, letting the young zombie disappear into the jungle. The two continued to go deeper into the forest with their bows and arrows. On the way, they encountered a group of migrating animals. The human disaster has instead allowed these wild animals to become the masters of nature again. There is a dilapidated wooden house near the wilderness. Although people may have searched it 100 times, the two still plan to search it. Spike found a frisbee for entertainment in the broken house. He was born too late to even recognize what it was. Hardly had the words fallen when a roar came from not far away. Jimmy immediately entered a combat state, and cautiously approached the room inside. He saw a zombie hanging upside down from the beam. Crows were pecking at the rotten flesh on his body. Spike wanted to lower his head and avoid looking at this cruel scene, but His father wouldn't let him look away. Humiliating words were carved on that zombie's body. Its head was tied with a cloth bag. No one knew how long it had been hanging here. Jimmy speculated that he must have been a normal person when he was tied here. It's just that it has been infected now. It's said that there are some strange people wandering on the mainland. It's likely that they did this. Jimmy asked Spike to kill this zombie to build up his courage. He also told his son that the more he kills, the easier it gets. No need to feel sad. After all, the infection has already taken away their minds. Spike pulled the bowstring fully but hesitated to release it. In the moment of his hesitation, the zombie had broken free from the rope and fallen to the ground. Jimmy didn't hesitate and quickly shot it dead. The father and son continued forward and saw bloodstains on the leaves. Going further, they found the body of a beast with its belly ripped open. The animal's head was still hanging from a tree trunk not far away. Jimmy knew that there was a group of powerful mutated zombies in the jungle. They not only have consciousness but also combat command capabilities. He felt that the situation was bad and told his son to speed up. Seeing under a big tree not far away, there was a group of zombies in a pack. Jimmy reacted instantly and pulled his son back into the woods. That group of zombies chased after them like vultures that had smelled meat. They are not like the zombies in ordinary film shows. They move extremely fast. Jimmy instructed his son to regulate his breathing. The two drew their bows together and aimed at the leading zombie. Jimmy shot and killed 2 in a row. However, Spike had completely lost his aim. Seeing more and more zombies approaching, Jimmy could only fight while running. The sense of presence in this segment is very realistic. It's hard to imagine that this film was actually shot with an iPhone. The father and son fled all the way to an abandoned hut. Jimmy guarded the entrance to deal with the zombies. He told his son to check around for a place to hide. Unexpectedly, Spike really found a skylight. Jimmy lifted him up to climb through it. Unexpectedly, a zombie suddenly rushed over. He had to let go of his son first to shoot the zombie. The two finally climbed up to the attic. They had run out of the arrows they brought, so they must not confront these zombies head on. It was definitely impossible to get back before the tide rose. Spike looked out the window and saw a little firelight flickering in the distance. He was curious about what was there, but Jimmy had never been to that place and couldn't answer his son's question. Late at night, Spike dreamed that his mother was standing in the sea. The seawater had reached her neck. Outside the dream, migratory animals passed by in a mighty procession. Jimmy was the first to be awakened by the commotion and realized that this shabby attic might not hold up. He quickly woke his son, who was still dreaming. The two left the hut before the attic collapsed. Jimmy estimated the time and ran back. Although the tide hadn't fully receded yet, the water level above the causeway should be shallow. They planned to take the risk of wading back. Fortunately, Jimmy's estimation was correct. The water barely reached their calves. But before the two could catch their breath, a huge zombie spotted their location. The flock of crows hovering above the zombie's head was like some kind of death omen. In the blink of an eye, they flew to the father and son. Jimmy saw the waves stirred up behind him and realized that the zombie was chasing them. They kept running as hard as they could. Unexpectedly, Spike messed up at the critical moment. He actually went weak at the knees and fell into the water. Jimmy pulled his son up and ran like crazy, shouting for help. Seeing the zombie getting closer and closer, Jimmy finally saw the sentry post not far away. The person standing guard above turned on the lights, fired several arrows in a row at the giant zombie, but ordinary arrows couldn't take down this big guy. The sentry made a quick decision and fired the precious giant arrow. Finally, the zombie was knocked down. Fearing something might go wrong, Jimmy kicked the door frantically. However, Susan, worried that the two might be infected, had been reluctant to open the door. Angry, Jimmy pressed his son against the door crack, shouting, "Look at his eyes." Spike's eyes were filled with fear, which was clearly not the kind of emotion a zombie would have. Susan finally opened the door. The villagers warmly welcomed the father and son back. Jimmy had a few drinks and started talking about their journey. He described the fat, slow zombie as incredibly brave and powerful, and portrayed his son, who had been scared stiff, as a hero, which made the atmosphere even more lively. The enthusiastic crowd lifted Spike up. They shouted and screamed, dancing wildly. 12-year-old Spike was filled with alcohol and saw his father leading a woman to sneak through the back door. Spike pushed through the crowd and vomited for a while. He quietly followed his father only to see him fooling around with the woman. Spike felt sad for his mother, so he left. the party and went home to see her. However, Sam, who was helping guard the door, said Isla had already fallen asleep. She hadn't had an attack today and was in good condition. Sam asked Spike in return how the coming-of-age ceremony had been. The honest little boy replied, "Although my dad made me out to be a hero, I'm nothing. I only shot a zombie so fat it could barely move.
I was just scared. Felt sick. I wanted to be home with me mum."
Your dad probably felt the same.
Spike told Sam that besides zombies, on this journey, he saw many animals and light spots in the distance. Dad said that was fire, but didn't know who had lit it. Sam asked if the firelight was in the southwest direction. Spike nodded. Sam then explained that it might be Kelson. "He used to be my general practitioner. I thought Kelson had long been dead. His clinic is outside Whitley Bay." Upon hearing this, Spike couldn't figure out why his father had lied. He had clearly said before that all doctors were dead. So no one knew what was wrong with Mom. Sam comforted Spike, saying, "Your dad is just afraid of scaring you. Kelson is a bit strange." Spike wanted to ask for details, but Sam refused to say anymore. Since Jimmy is hiding something about this as an outsider, he shouldn't talk too much either. Spike climbed into his mother's bed and gradually fell asleep. Not until the next morning did drunk Jimmy return home. However, he didn't have a drunken fit, but instead prepared breakfast for the family as usual. Spike held back again and again but still chose to ask his father, "Why didn't you tell me there's a doctor who can treat Mom?" Jimmy had no choice but to tell his son, "Before you were born, we used to go gathering, but later, the resources we could collect became fewer and fewer, so we went further. Thus, we met a group of people from the Kelson family. From 500 yards away, I could smell the stench of death. When Jimmy and his group reached the hillside, they saw hundreds of bodies laid out in a row. Among them were men, women, and children. In the middle of the bodies was a bonfire. Kelson threw the bodies into the fire one after another. He noticed the people on the hillside waving excitedly to greet them. Jimmy and the others were so scared that they left in a hurry. For the next 15 years, they never went near that place again. So no matter whether Kelson was a doctor before or after the outbreak, everything has changed. However, Spike wasn't convinced by Jimmy. He always felt that his father was waiting for his mother to die. Maybe once Isla dies, his father will marry the woman from last night. Having been exposed, Jimmy slapped Spike. When he came to his senses and wanted to apologize, Spike had already run to the second-floor room, holding a dagger. He guarded the door, not allowing his father to get close to his mother. Angry, Jimmy punched the wall to vent his anger. He turned around and left the house. Now that Spike knows the doctor exists, then no matter what kind of person Kelson is, he must take his mother to see the doctor. So Spike set an abandoned house on fire, ran to the watchtower, and shouted that there was a fire. After luring away the 2 gate sentries, Spike went back to find his mother, took Isla, and set off on the journey to seek medical help. The mother and son kept moving forward toward the southwest, but Isla, being ill, got tired after walking for not long. Spike could only find a place to stay for the night. He took care of his mother to rest, while he stayed awake to keep watch. However, Spike is still a child after all. He didn't hold on for long before starting to feel sleepy, leaning against the wall and falling asleep. Little did he know that a zombie was slowly approaching. Seeing that it had already crawled to Spike's side, his mother stepped forward to protect her child. Judging from Isla's neat kill, she was probably a tough person before she got sick. It's unexpected that she could be tortured like this by the illness. The two left the place where they stayed overnight and continued their journey. Meanwhile, a troop was fighting zombies nearby. They were more advanced than the villagers in the settlement. Each of them was holding a gun. But even so, facing the astonishing number of zombies, these soldiers had no advantage either. They were pounced on and thrown to the ground, brutally devoured. The virus quickly infected and spread. Survivors could only shoot their comrades. Unexpectedly, the next second, they were also pounced on by zombies. In just a few minutes, the group of people was reduced to only 3 survivors. Fortunately, they found a hiding place, used an iron gate to separate the zombies, sprayed gunfire, and thus got a chance to catch their breath. The 3 turned on the lights and moved into the tunnel. After walking a few hundred meters, they were suddenly attacked by zombies. This giant zombie was powerful, grabbing a soldier's head with its bare hands and pulling it out. It directly pulled out the other's spine. He took the spine and knocked out another young man. This scene is really chilling. The last soldier didn't dare to stay, hurried back the same way, and escaped from the tunnel. The scene shifts back to the protagonist's mother and son. Isla's consciousness is becoming more and more muddled. Sometimes she even mistakes Spike for Jimmy, and gets lost in memories from many years ago. As Isla talks, she starts bleeding from the nose. Spike helps his mother wipe off the blood and shoots the approaching zombie. But these things are like cockroaches, where there's one, others will follow one after another. Spike hurriedly pulls his mother to flee. The two rush to a nearby gas station in one go. They burst through the front door and hide inside. Unexpectedly, the onrushing leaking gas makes it hard to breathe. Before the mother and son can react, those zombies crawl in after them. Spike struggles to deal with the zombies, while Isla has difficulty breathing and is gasping heavily. At the critical moment, the surviving soldier appears. Unfortunately, his good intentions lead to bad results. One shot ignites the accumulated flammable gas in the room. Several zombies are burned to cinders. Spike and his mother lie low and narrowly escape. The soldier hurries over to check on the situation. It can be known from their conversation that the soldier is named Eric and is Swedish. He learns that Spike is trying to find a doctor for his mother, and can't help but soften up, carrying the weak Isla on his back to give the mother and son a ride. On the way, Eric explains that the ship he was on hit something. While patrolling the east coast of Scotland, the wind blew the wrecked ship to the shore. Thus Eric strayed into this forbidden area. When they first landed, there were 8 of them in total, but now only Eric remains. Spike suggests that, after taking his mother to see the doctor, Eric can come live in their village. Halfway there, Eric insists on resting. He takes out a phone with no signal and shows Spike a photo of his fiancée. The boy has never seen a phone at all, and doesn't know that girls outside like to wear makeup. He even thinks that the older sister in the photo is allergic to shellfish, which is why her lips are so swollen. After resting for over 10 minutes, Isla can finally walk on her own. They don't walk far before seeing an abandoned bus. As soon as Isla approaches, countless rats scamper out. She stumbles into the bus, and unexpectedly sees a zombie in labor inside. Judging from the fact that the pregnant woman still has clothes on, the time she's been infected shouldn't be long. It's likely that she was infected after getting pregnant, thus the fetus in her womb isn't affected. Out of maternal instinct, Isla helps the female zombie give birth. What happens next is what occurred at the beginning of the film. Giant Zombie Alpha not only brutally killed Eric, but also kept chasing Spike and his mother. Spike shot arrows while running, but Alpha had thick, tough skin and wasn't affected at all. Spike fled out of the carriage with his mother, and was about to be caught by Alpha, when an old man appeared out of nowhere like a divine soldier, and shot a dart at Alpha. The arrowhead was presumably coated with drugs, and the frenzied Alpha froze instantly. Seeing that this person knew medical knowledge, Spike knew he had met Dr. Kelson, and hurried to explain his mother's condition. Kelson then took the mother and son away from here, to prevent Alpha from harming them after waking up. The three waded across the river and arrived at a wasteland. Unexpectedly, Kelson was also a performance artist. He created this memorial square with the bones of those who had died. Every skull here once had thoughts, every eye socket once saw scenery, and every set of jaws once spoke and swallowed. Kelson wanted to make their deaths meaningful, so he created this place. No wonder Jimmy saw Kelson burning corpses 15 years ago. He isn't a perverted serial killer, he just likes to commemorate the dead in his own way. Kelson gave Isla a brief examination. He had no diagnostic equipment and couldn't perform a biopsy, but based on the basic examination, Isla most likely has cancer, and it has spread from the body to the brain. In fact, Isla knew in her heart, she had long guessed her illness was serious. Presumably, the same went for everyone else in the village. It's just that no one was willing to talk to Spike about it. Everyone was tacitly waiting for Isla's death. The doctor's words took away Spike's hope. Indiana contrast, Isla felt relieved. As a doctor, Kelson knew better than anyone that what Isla needed was relief. So he told the mother and son, there are many kinds of death. You can say goodbye to your family and love, and leave this world peacefully. Isla understood the doctor's implication, and was willing to accept euthanasia, and her departure would also be a relief for her son. When Dr. Kelson walked out of the woods, he had an extra skull in his hand. Spike took his mother's skull, climbed to the top of the shelf, and aligned Isla's eye sockets with the rising sun. After dawn, Alpha chased over, and the doctor quickly hid underground with Spike. Alpha seemed eager to retrieve that child, and kept hitting the iron bars above his head. He stretched his arm in and grabbed the doctor, refusing to let go. At the critical moment, Spike picked up the anesthetic arrow from the ground, and stabbed it into Alpha's arm.
I think it's time for you and the baby to go home.
Spike sets off on his way home. He hangs the baby on the village gate, then he returns to the forest alone. Perhaps Spike isn't ready to go home yet. He wants to keep going until he can't see the sea anymore. On the other side, Susan delivers the baby. And the letter Spike left to Jimmy's house. Jimmy sees his son's letter and rushes out of the village, but no matter how he shouts, Spike won't hear him. His son is destined not to be trapped on the island. At this moment, Spike is besieged by a group of zombies. He's almost out of arrows and has to run forward in a hurry. Unexpectedly, the road is blocked by a pile of boulders. At the critical moment, a man with golden hair and a cross appears. Beside him are a group of agile, fashionably dressed followers. These people kill zombies as easily as cutting melons and vegetables. The victim, who was hung upside down with words carved on his back, was most likely a traitor or failure punished by this blonde man. This group of people is like more intelligent yet more barbaric zombies, forming a new type of tribal order, and the blonde man's name is similar to Spike's father's. His name is Jamie, who experienced a terrible disaster 28 years ago. That day, young Jamie and all the children in the family huddled in the bedroom watching Teletubbies. His mother nervously closed the door and told him not to leave this room. Soon, there was a crashing sound outside. Jamie pressed against the door panel and called his mother's name. Several zombies smashed the door open with great force. Jamie was knocked behind the door and narrowly escaped, but none of the children in front of the TV survived. Scared, Jamie ran out of the door only to see his mother also bitten by a zombie. Before dying, she kept shouting, "Run, Jamie!" The boy stumbled and ran to the church to look for his father, but the latter could only say things he didn't understand.
I'm so scared, Dad. I think Mum's just gonna be dead.
Oh no, son. Not dead. Saved.
The father handed the cross symbolizing faith to Jamie, then he stood still and was devoured by zombies. Jamie couldn't figure out why his father had abandoned him, and the string of crosses in his hand had become an inverted cross representing cult. Jamie and Spike, one heals pain with madness, the other holds fast to faith and love. After the collapse of civilization, the direction of human nature is always full of diverging paths. Besides these two characters, the other characters also have profound meanings behind them. For example, Spike's father Jimmy is a typical symbol of patriarchy. He neglects the care of his sick wife. As a warrior, he enjoys the respect of the villagers, even at the cost of putting his own child in danger. But at the same time, he has been suppressing his own violence. He makes breakfast for the child, trains him in survival skills, and takes pride in his son. Like many fathers, Jimmy is both a provider of protection and a source of harm. Overall, this film combines the two themes of literature/art and zombies very well.